Hopefully the camera quality is good. Hi, everybody. I have never done this on here before, but I am going to be fielding a Q&A from all of the questions that I've procured for my Instagram. Now, if you're new here, I used to do Q&As on my Instagram all the time, maybe 4 or 5 times a week. I would answer anywhere from 15 to sometimes 40 questions a pop. And it was great. And I provided a lot of value to the people that were on Instagram during that time. But the issue that I found, and the reason why I stopped doing them, was because by definition, if you're only putting it on your story, unless maybe you're clipping one here and there for a reel or a post, which I stupidly didn't do, the information's gone after 24 hours. So I'm going to be fielding questions intermittently from my Instagram, maybe more than intermittently. I'd like to do this a couple times a week, like I wrote in my description, and posting them on here so you all can enjoy and maybe use the search feature on YouTube and come back if you have questions. So I have all the questions pulled up here on my phone, and we're going to answer them. So let's jump on together because we got a fair bit. And again, I hope that the camera is good here. I'm just doing it off my computer on the live. So first question, Coach Maria. How are you, Maria? What are your top tier delts and back exercises? Now, of course, this is completely subjective. You're asking me what my favorite ones are. It can be different for different people, but there are principles. So I prefer movements for the delts and the back that offer the musculature the opportunity to be trained through a full range of motion, to be loaded through a full range of motion, to be loaded preferentially also in the stretch position, to have the movement to be stable, and for you to enjoy it, and of course to be pain-free. So that is the general principles for what I look for. Then, what are my top tier delts and back exercises in general? For delts, of course, it's a lateral raise variation, specifically lateral raise variations where I'm cuffed and I maybe will hold a handle and I'll do them on a free motion or a cable. And after that, it's whatever angle you like the best. So for me, my favorite, I love lying cuff laterals, holding a handle, but behind the back cuff laterals to the front where I'm crossing, either where my arms are completely straight, or a new one that I've been doing. And if you've been following me on Instagram recently, at Shimmy93, SHIMMY93, the year I was born. By the way, my birthday's September 9th, coming up. Woo! I can also do laterals up here, where it's almost a hybrid between a rear delt fly and a lateral raise. So it's almost like hip level. I love that movement. Unilateral, one arm, obviously redundant, cuff laterals, either back or to the front, I adore. All variations of cuff laterals, preferably holding a handle because it feels better on my elbows, done in the 10 to 15 or 15 to 20 rep ranges. Those are my favorites. I like upright rows as well, but lateral raises would be my favorite. And then top tier back exercises. Well, I mean, there are so many. So, and in no particular order, some sort of free weight bent over rowing variation, whether it be 2 dumbbells, 1 dumbbell, a barbell overhand, a barbell underhand with an easy bar, which is not done a lot. I should do that one of these days. It's so good. A T-bar row bent over with no chest support, or a T-bar row with a chest support. I love that movement. If I'm going to be doing the bent over row variation, it'll likely be in the 6 to 10, 8 to 12, or 10 to 15 variation, or rep range rather. Generally because I do them with a slow eccentric, a full pause, and a significant range of motion. So doing that for, say, 20 reps on a first set, yeah, it's questionable. To be honest, for me, even 15 is questionable. It's really like 6 to 10, 8 to 12 is like meat and potatoes if you use the really slow tempo that I impart. And that's for rowing. Then for vertical pulling, some kind of pull up going all the way down. I prefer a neutral grip, as many of you know. If you follow me and you see me do it, it's just most comfortable for my elbows, honestly. My left bicep is not what it used to be, so overhand stuff is kind of out for me when it comes to vertical pulling, which is pretty sad. So it's some kind of neutral or even a reverse grip. Get some bicep involvement there too. 6 to 10, 8 to 12, 10 to 15 if you're nasty. Or a typical pull down, overhand grip, close grip, reverse grip, those are all good. Probably still going to be, though, a close grip for me, or neutral grip, rather. Assisted pull-up, if you have a really good one. If you're curious, the Cybex, the old Cybex assisted pull-up machine that's really tall is my favorite assisted pull-up machine by far. Doing that in a 10 to 15 or 15 to 20 rep range is fantastic. And then your typical pullover. I love pullovers, as you know, with a cable in the 10 to 15 or 15 to 20 rep range. Or if you have a really good machine pullover, again, in the 10 to 15 or 15 to 20 rep range. I hope that helps, Maria. cflores.wave. Cutting, bulking. Do you have a certain body fat percentage you plan to stop each phase at? So I don't know if you're asking about me and my phase, or if you're looking for more of a general principle answer that could help you. Either way, I don't put much stock into body fat percentages. I really let the mirror and how I feel about myself be my guide. I'm not going to get hydrostatic body fat testing. I'm not going to a bod pod. I'm not doing any of that. None of that is interesting to me, and I don't really think that that is so useful. So really, I could give you the nomenclature, the short form of, well, if I'm going much over 15% body fat, then my bulk is over. But what does that even mean? You know, truthfully, when I can't really see my abs, they've kind of faded away and I just have the indented line, that's generally when my massing phase for me is over. And then when it comes to cutting, yeah, I mean, once I reached a new level of leanness and I don't feel like cutting anymore, then I basically stop my cut. So it's different for different people. You know, there are some people that like living at a somewhat heavier, albeit still healthy body weight, blood work mediated body weight. And that's fine. And you can keep massing there. That's okay. There are other people who prefer to stay on the leaner side, in which case for them, once they can't really fully see a six pack, they'd be like, all right, my massing phase is over. I think I'd really have a hard time arguing that one is more effective than the other. Honestly, it's really personal preference. As long as you are having a fluctuation, as long as you are allowing yourself to put on additional body weight during that massing phase, and you're putting on maybe a smidge more body fat than you'd like. And then in the cutting phase, again, you want to get to a certain level of leanness that you've never been to before and that you're satisfied with. And if you're not, then keep cutting and take as many maintenance phases as you need to keep cutting. Ross Nim, why haven't you done this in such a long time? Well, I had already stated previously, I got fed up of giving all this information for it to be gone in 24 hours. And in addition to that, I just felt this wasn't a very good ROI on my time. You know, I spent a lot of time doing these Q&As. Maybe it would be almost an hour every, 5 days a week or something. And for what? For one or two people to reach out to me to be like, hey, man, can you maybe coach me or give me a consult? I didn't think that was a very good exchange. So I said, you know what, let me just continue to give the value through my content. And the people that have been following me for a while, they already know, they already see my credibility. And if anyone has any questions, they can just DM me and maybe we can convert that conversation into coaching. I'm very transparent with you guys. I have nothing to hide. But now that I've accrued a fair bit of new followers since the last time I did this, which by the way, was 6 months ago, maybe a little bit more than 6 months ago. Maybe some of them don't really, know my vibe or don't really know how I think about training at a more deeper level. They only just see my posts and maybe we have a DM conversation here and there. So I'm going to bring this stuff back. And it's also another way to give more content to my YouTube page, which is really what I'm trying to grow as well. So we're back. Good up in it. Good do pandit. 75. Sorry. Can we train the muscle after giving them a rest of 4 days? Well, that depends. That depends on if that muscle is recovered or not. That depends if you can fit that muscle in to be trained after 4 days. And it depends if you want to do it. If you train a certain muscle group and 4 days later, it's still really, really sore and you believe you won't be able to output appropriate performance for muscle growth, well, it doesn't take a monkey's uncle to tell you that you shouldn't be training that muscle group. Additionally, if you trained a muscle group and after 2 or 3 days, it's not sore, your willingness to do that muscle, to train that muscle is really, really high, and you have it fit seamlessly in your training plan, well, if it's only been 48 hours, it's time to train it again, right? Something like calves come to mind, or abs for some people, or lateral delts, right? You might train them one day, and 36 hours later, they're ready to be trained again. It's just like that. Whereas something like the lower back or the upper chest, you might do some sets of that on a Tuesday, and it still might be sore until Friday. And I think it would be not unintelligent to train it again, say on Thursday, if it's still sore, So it just depends on how you're feeling. Jay Troy, Shimmy is back with the Q&A. Just wondering how you're doing, man. How's life going for you? I'm doing good, man. I'm doing all right. Life is going. Life is going. To be very honest with you guys, I'm in a little bit of a transitionary period with some life stuff. So I'm kind of looking for the next big thing, if I'm very honest with you. I have some cool side things going on, yes, but the next big mission, the next big endeavor, to be honest, I'm now looking for that. So I'll keep you posted. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know how much of my personal life I want to share on here. As you know, I really try to keep it more so give the value through fitness, nutrition, and fun and that kind of thing. But we'll see. Jason Reese just finished a sick cut. Sick cut. From 215 to 193. Very nice. How quickly should bulk back to my 215 calories? Love the question. Don't think about it this way, Jason. Think about it as I am now 193. What will be my calorie surplus at 193 to go from 193 to 194 to 195? Look at it like that. So looking to gain anywhere from 0.25% to 0.5% a week. Short form, gain a pound a week. In your case, if you do 1.5 pounds sometimes, 0.5 pound sometimes, cool, it all shakes out. So in your case, whatever your maintenance calories are for 193, or in kilos, I believe that's 88 kilos, just under 88 kilos, 87.7 or something. Find that, then go 500 calories on top of that, or whatever it's going to be on top of your maintenance to bring you at 0.5 kilo gain per week or 1 pound gain per week, and then go from there. Don't immediately think, okay, now I'm 193. I need to get back to 215 as fast as possible. Absolutely not. Take your time and let the gains come along the way. Goal is to hit 215, but leaner than last year. Yeah. I don't think you should have so much of a body weight goal. It feels nice to do. I used to do this when I was a younger and less experienced man. Instead of that, your goal should be to just nail your rate of gain, whatever you set for yourself, on a weekly basis, and ultimately hit PRs in the gym. Your body will follow suit. At the end of the day, who cares if you're 215, 207, 203, 220 if you're fat, or if your performance in the gym is less than it used to be? Conversely, let's say you are leaner. Let's say you're 208 or something, but you hit PRs across a slew of exercises and you look better than you ever did. You really gonna give a fuck about 215? No, you're like, all right, bro, 208, I'm good. You know what I mean? So focus on your typical weekly rate of gain and focus on your gym performance. Everything else will take care of itself. Ashy Quabs, what's going on, man? Very, very active in my Q&A. Always has been from day one. If I'm doing Smith machine squats twice in a week, should I maintain the same weight for both days or heavy and light? A few ways you can take this. If you are a beginner, simply keeping the volume static, the rep range static, and just adding 5 or 10 pounds each session is probably okay. Probably okay. Especially if you're starting farther from failure, if you're a beginner. In your case, because we've talked a bunch now, you're not really a beginner. I wouldn't say you're advanced. You're somewhere in the middle. So I think that you can do better. If you love Smith machine squats and you want to do them twice a week, and by the way, you don't have to. I'm saying that anybody, there's other variations. Varying the rep ranges would probably be a good idea, number one. Varying the range of motion, be number two. Varying the exercise order, be number three. Keep it simple. So you can do Smith machine squats in the 6 to 10 rep range, straight sets, fine, on one day. The other day, you could do them in the 8 to 12 or 10 to 15. That's an option. One day, you could do them 6 to 10 full range. The other day, you could do 6 to 10 length and partials, only going all the way down but halfway up. That's an option. One day, you could do Smith machine squats first, leg press second. Other day, you do leg press first, Smith machine squats second. And again, you have the option to vary the rep range in that second day as well. You could do leg presses first, and then Smith machine squats again in the 6 to 10 or in the 8 to 12 or 10 to 15. Those are options. Now, there are other things you can do too, but for now, let's keep it simple and just give you those three options to play with there. Moving on, Omar Chen, another regular. Omar, always appreciate the love, man. I hope you're doing great. Peak for a show. Do you prefer front or back loading? Any manipulations you prefer for carbs, water, and sodium? So I have never competed in a show, although I have been pretty lean before. I've done photo shoots Never competed in a show, so that has to be said. I have friends that compete in shows, and I like it. I'm interested in it. So okay. That being said, in my experience and in my point of view, I think that the peak is unnecessary for a large majority of both competitors and fitness models and photo shoot people, unless you are really, really, really lean and it's going to matter. I made this mistake. When I did my first photo shoot, I was lean. I was lean. I can pull up a photo or so I don't know. I can't pull up a photo on here, but I was pretty lean, 8-pack, fine. I wasn't stage lean by any means. And I said, ooh, I'm lean. Let me experience this protocol. Let me experience this water sodium manipulation. And Jared Feather, who's a friend of mine, some of you may know him, I hit him up and I was like, Jared, I'm lean and I got a photo shoot coming up. Can you help me out with my peak? He's like, yeah, bro, love. Amazing. Let's do it. Sent me a program to do, followed it to the T. And to be honest, I really don't think it made much of a difference. There's no slight against Jared. I'm sure what he sent me was fine. But I just don't really think it did much. But it certainly made me mentally masturbate over the whole thing and pontificate over every single thing that I'm doing. And, oh, was this right? Was this not right? What's the mechanism? Why did I do this? My second photo shoot, which was last year, where the photos were sick, in my opinion. I'm so proud of them. They look great. You can look on my Instagram. They're there. I did nothing. I showed up lean. I treated it like a workout. All I did was I had my carbs during the photo shoot. I had a pre-workout, right? So a little bit of vasodilator with a little bit of salt in there, pumped up and just did the photo shoot. So I think for a lot of people, it's really not relevant. And if it is relevant for you, then absolutely speak to a contest prep specific coach who can handle the peaking. Okay. Kyle B _67 tips for cutting and making it more manageable in a job with hard labor. Well, you have your work cut out for you, sir, because if you have a job with hard labor, chances are you probably have a high step count, which means that the cut is going to be easier for you than it's going to be for other people, which is nice, which means you probably can eat a little bit more food. Then again, I don't know what kind of labor you're doing, but that being said, if you're doing manual labor where you're generally loading your spine a lot, I would be very mindful of how much axially loaded work you're doing in the gym, i.e. how much you're doing, how much volume you're doing, where you're loading your spine. Maybe substitute the bent over rowing you're doing for a chest support. Maybe substitute the Smith machine or free weight squatting you're doing for a hack squat or a leg press. Things of that nature. Maybe certain things that you're doing standing, do them seated. This is something to think about. But in terms of cutting for a hard manual labor job, when you're working, especially if you're working in the sun, I don't know exactly what you're doing. I understand it can be harder to eat. So you want to have foods that can be more grabbable, grab and go. So maybe making some smoothies and putting it in the fridge, the work fridge, so you can grab that and just sip it while you're, on your break or something like that. And smoothies can be pretty filling depending on how you make them texture-wise, as well as what you put in them. So that's a really good idea. Of course, keeping the nutrition generally liquid anyways. Most people wouldn't recommend that on a cut because you say, what do you mean? If you go liquid, it's not going to fill me up and it might potentiate more hunger. It might, but the thing is, and what I found, and if anybody hears in chat, I don't know how many people are here in chat, but anyone's here in chat, you could speak to this. When you're very active, it almost has a hunger numbing effect where you're doing shit. You're like, I'm busy doing shit. I don't want to eat. Yeah, when you sit down and chill, then all of a sudden everything cools and you're like, oh, I'm hungry. But when you're actually working and being busy, which is a big thing when you're cutting, you're just not that hungry. So that's what I would recommend to you is I would say have foods already pre-prepped. That's fucking redundant. Have foods prepared that you can put in the fridge or in the cupboard. Dry cereal, smoothies, juices, protein shakes, low-fat milk, stuff like that. Even low-fat chips, pretzels, especially pretzels have sodium. If you're working, doing hard labor and sweating, sodium is really good. This is an idea. And also, like I'd mentioned, be mindful of how much lower back loaded training you're doing in the gym if you're doing a lot of work that loads your spine. I hope that helps. And let me know if it doesn't. Oscar, my friend, how are you, man? Liu, any tips on how I can learn to dance like you? It doesn't help that I'm introverted. Ha! So, funnily enough, a lot of really good dancers are introverted, man. Or girl. I'm sorry, I don't know where you lean. A lot of good dancers are introverted. If you talk to a lot of really good dancers, they can't have a conversation to save their fucking life, but they can dance their ass off. So they use dancing as a means of articulating their emotion, as a means of having that conversation, because when they speak to you, you're like, what's going on? So any tips I can learn to dance? Yeah, absolutely. Dance every single day, or dance, almost treat it like you're in the gym, right? So set aside time, set like your training session, right? 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, whatever it is, every single day. Pick a dance style. It really helps if you can narrow down on one style that you like. Pick that, set aside time, and just move, right? So look up stuff on YouTube. There are dance apps that you can go to, do classes. Consistency is the biggest thing. And you are going to suck so much when you start. You're not even going to know what you're doing at all. But time doing the thing fixes all that. It will help. So I would say treat it like, I don't want to give you tons of tips because it'll overwhelm you. The biggest thing that I can tell you is set aside time at least 3 times a week. If you need to, even if you need to put a timer, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, do it. Pick one dance style, look up some stuff on YouTube, and just start there. There's so many tutorials. And if you want more help, message and I can absolutely give you more tips, but that's a simple one. Okay. Ali 1414XD. Any good variation for Nautilus Pullover? Because I don't have that machine. Yeah, most people don't have that machine. Shit, I don't even have that machine. I have a Cybex one at the gym that I train at. That's obviously great. But yeah, cable pullovers. Cable pullovers are amazing. Absolutely amazing. I have tons of tutorials on my Instagram. Go check there. Again, Shimmy93, SHIMMY 93 if you're new here. I have tons of tips on how to do cable pullovers. Cable pullovers in the 10 to 15 or 15 to 20 rep range are a fantastic way to substitute for a Nautilus pullover. That's number one. Number two, you can do a dumbbell pullover. It's become more in favor recently in the last couple of months with the length partial or stretch research. I'm not a huge fan of it. I used to love it growing up, but you could still do that. Either lay completely in line with the bench or lay crossways on the bench. Arms go all the way back, pause in the stretch, extend all the way up. Don't bend your elbows too much. Keep it consistent, because if you do bend your elbow through it, you're going to turn it more into a tricep movement than it needs to be. So that's what I would say. Dan Steph, can you quickly break down nutrient water manipulation leading up to a peak show photo shoot? It's what I mentioned before. I think that this is something, Dan, that you probably don't need to spend time on, and you'd be better suited to just get leaner. Treat it like a workout. So the day that you have the photo shoot, do it like you'd have a workout. Have some carbs before, have your pre-workout if you're doing that, add some salt to the pre-workout, sip on some Gatorade or some sort of carb source with some electrolytes in there during the photo shoot, pump up and look amazing. I don't really think that it's necessary unless you're really, really, really lean already, which only applies to people that are stepping on stage, and stepping on stage not for the first time. When you step on stage for the first time, you're still not that lean, right? So have a few shows under your belt and then worry about nutrition and peaking. And chances are, if you have a few shows under your belt, you probably already have a coach, so they'll handle that peaking thing for you. Just my take, just my opinion. All right. Untitled _ 2020. If I program 45-degree ham extension machine before Smith squats, will that hinder my performance for squats? It may not. You have to experience it. You have to try it for yourself. This is not one of those things where I can just tell you the answer and then you just go forth and multiply. It doesn't work that way. You have to try both. There's a really good chance that it doesn't. There's a really good chance that it does. So try it with low volumes and just see. No harm done. What rep range and tempo do you recommend for side delts? So I mentioned this before. For side delts, I think no matter what the movement is, lateral raise, upright row variation, anything less than 15 reps on a first set doesn't make sense to me, flat out. For me, and I've never seen it work for anybody else either, to be very honest with you. 15 reps on a first set, as far as tempo goes, I have a bias to slower eccentrics and pauses in the end range or pauses in the stretch. That's my bias. You don't have to do that. It's not magical. You could do a 2-second lowering. So 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1. You can do that. For me, I prefer 3 or 4 seconds on the way down. So 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold and then up fast. That's what I like. That's where I get the best mind muscle connection, the best pump. Not so much soreness, but lateral delts barely get sore. But that's what I like. Stace Face 624. Another longtime supporter, Stace, how are you? Any significant difference between dumbbell and Smith machine RDL and SLDL? Not really. Specific difference? There are some small nuances when it comes to grip, when it comes to the way that you retract your shoulder blades. But all in all, it's the same movement pattern. Soft bend in your knee, push your butt to the back wall, keep your chest tall, keep the weight relatively close to your body, keep your arms locked out, use straps. Go down as low as you can where you can maintain an arched or at the very least flat spine. Pause in the most stretched position where you can still do that. And then come up all the way or come up most of the way or only come up halfway. And do that in either the 5 to 8, 6 to 10, or 8 to 12 rep range. I don't see any value in doing a hinge movement like this, anything above 12 reps, whether it be a Smith, barbell, or 2 dumbbells. Tim, how are you, man? How are you, man? Are we due for another podcast one of these days? I hope you're doing well, bro. The mighty Josephus. When you add reps to exercise for programming, do you try to add a rep to every set or just one? Both answers work. Both answers work. Progress is still progress. If you do the math, if you have 200 pounds and you do 12, 10, 8 one day, okay, fine. That's 30 reps. 12, 10, 8, 30 reps. Fine. If I add a rep next week and I match the other two and I go 13, 10, 8, well, now I did 31 reps, literally a progression. Or I could do 12, 11, 9. I added 2 reps to the later sets. As long as I'm able to generate some kind of progression, I'm good, and so are you. So whether you add 1 kilo, 2 kilos, 5 kilos, and match reps, whether you keep the weight the same and beat reps on 1 set, 2 sets, or all sets, whether you keep the weight and reps the same and add a set, which is not talked about that much. So if you can recover from it, but you can't add load, generally you'll see this on movements that are smaller, like a lateral or a curl or a push down for a lot of people. You might get 15, 13, 11, be unable to add reps or go up in weight, but you could do 15, 13, 11, 10, and your rep range is 10 to 15. That's 10 more reps. That's a progression as well. So anything is good, man. Everything you noted is progress. And even if you don't add reps and you just maintain week over week, that's still a progression too. And that's not talked about enough. So I want to rip this in here. Tim, Oscar, Leo, if you guys are still here, listen up because this is a big one. I was talking to somebody about this the other day. If you maintain performance week over week, you're carrying more fatigue from that previous week to now. So if you're still just maintaining performance, you're doing it under the context of more fatigue. That's actually still a progression, right? Like, let's say you're in a diet phase, right? And last week you were eating 2,800 calories and you were doing 11,000 steps a day and you slept 7 hours a night. Great. This week, let's say you either dropped the food, you added steps, or maybe you added sets to other things. Maybe you had a few nights where the sleep wasn't so good and you still get the same 12, 10, 8 at 100 kilos that you did last week. Well, now I perform the same under shittier conditions. It's a win still. It's not exciting. It doesn't seem so cool, especially when you're writing in your logbook like 12, 10, 8, 12, 10, 8, same weight. But you're doing it under the environment of worse conditions. It's still a progression. And that's something that I think a lot of people don't talk about. I should definitely do a post on that. Definitely. Ross Nim, if one hits 22.5 pound dumbbell sculls for 15, 11, 9, would you recommend adding a drop set if the goal is 10 to 15 or just lower the weight and add a set perhaps? Okay, it's a good question. Remember that rep ranges are arbitrary. You are literally making up these numbers. So it depends how neurotic you want to be. I like to give myself and anybody that I'm working with a buffer of 1 to 2 reps on the upper or lower side when I'm programming for rep ranges. So in their performance, if they have to do 10 to 15 rep range and they go like, I don't know, 15, 11, 9, 8, I'm good with it. I wouldn't say you needed to drop load because it's still right there. You know, fatigue makes you tired. You're basically there. To me, if you drop anything more than 2 reps out of the repetition range requirement, then I would make some sort of alteration there. But in your case, dropping 1, no, I think you're good. All right, keeping it going. I hope you're enjoying, everyone. Seneca_9. Is it okay to do dumbbell straight leg deadlifts without squat shoes? Any drawbacks? Excuse me. Is it okay to do dumbbell stiff legs with squat shoes? Any drawbacks to this? The first answer is the shitty one, which is you have to try it and see. Second one is you do want to keep the weight as much in your heels as you can when doing hinges. So squat shoes do the opposite of that because they subtly lift your heel up. So it may affect how much stretch you can impart on your hamstrings, but this is such a nominal thing, that if you are comfortable in your squat shoes, you're already wearing them from the other shit that you were doing, and you don't want to take your shoes off, and you can still get a good mind-muscle connection, stretch, pump, soreness, disruption in your hamstrings, keep them on. Keep them on. If you want to be neurotic as possible and get every single bounce and basket out of the movement that you're doing, yeah, I would probably not do that. That's me. I would probably do it with normal shoes, or I would do it in socks. And that being said, here's a little tip for you all that is very weird. I have no idea why it works, and it just works for me. I like to do any hinging stuff in socks with no shoes. I like my feet to be as close to the ground as I can, where I can sort of grip the floor with my feet. There is no nature, I want to be grounded thing. I just like it, and I seem to get a better mind-muscle connection when I do it. That's all. You can try that and see if you like it too. I don't know. But whenever I do any bent over rowing stuff, hinging stuff, if I can be barefoot, not barefoot, like in socks, or do it in slides or something with like a really thin heel, I just feel better. And when I do stuff with a really cushiony shoe or really hard shoe, it doesn't feel as good. Don't know why. Macy B 23. Are myo reps a viable option for a fat loss phase when you just don't have the puff? I love that. For more volume work. Myo reps are a viable option for a fat loss phase when you don't have the puff for more volume work. But then again, the way that you're communicating that is a little bit weird to me. Volume work. What is volume work, right? We are not power lifters. We are not Olympic weightlifters. There's no volume work. It's come in the gym, start with the least amount of sets that you can to generate the shit you need to generate, pump, soreness, disruption, right? All the shit. Then as your recovery allows, you just add more sets. Or you don't add more sets and you just add load and you add reps and whatever. There's no like, we're doing volume today, right? Like physique training, you basically want to do as much volume as you can recover or as you are willing to do, which usually manifests itself in a moderate to high amount of volume. That being said, if you're in a fat loss phase and you don't feel like doing straight sets, you want to economize on time, you want to over-index on the pump itself, which is, by the way, those are all highly valid. Then myo reps, and if any of you are not sure what myo reps are, it's just simply doing breathers. So you could do, let's say you have 15 reps to do, but you stop at 10. You don't really put the weight down, but you just hold for a second and then take 2 to 4 breaths and then keep going again, 2 or 3 reps and like that and like that. So the muscle is never completely relaxed and you're tenderly pushing it almost beyond failure. It's a great strategy. Johnny, I will. Give me 1 second. Myo reps can be a great strategy. They can. Sorry about that rant about volume work. I can be pedantic sometimes. Johnny, what'd you say? Can you tell me the best technique for lat pulls? Do you mean lat pull downs? I'm assuming you do. Just confirm with me, and then I will give you that answer. And if it's not, then tell me. Malik Kashan Tariq. What a name. Leg press or squat, which is better to grow both quads and glutes if lowering back fatigue? So if your lower back is fatiguing, what is better to grow both quads and glutes simultaneously, leg press or squat? I don't think that anyone that's really being honest with you could pick one without knowing you. I think you would need to try both. And it's funny. A lot of the stuff has come out recently. Shout out to Milo Wolf, actually, Wolf Coaching on Instagram. He made a couple posts or videos about this where he was talking about leg presses training the glutes. And I was very skeptical at first. So then when I thought about it, I was like, I guess my glutes do go on stretch. They just never seem to get sore from leg presses. And anyone that I've ever worked with, they've never gotten sore glutes from leg press. So I would say you need to try both, and you need to try both in a myriad, a cacophony. Oh, I love that word, cacophony of rep ranges, and see which responds the best. So leg press, I would do them in the 8 to 12, 10 to 15, or 15 to 20 rep range. Squats, 5 to 8, 6 to 10, 8 to 12, 10 to 15. Also experiment with different stances for both of them. So you could go narrow stance, like a lot of you have seen me do if you follow me on socials. So like duck, right? Like narrow feet, toes out. Just seems to work for me. I like it. That's cool. You can do a toes pointed straight ahead medium stance. You can do a wide toes out stance. I will not be recommending a high foot plate on the leg press. No. Sumo squat, of course, medium stance, toes out, knees out, going as low as you can where you can maintain upright chest and flat back. You have to experiment with all of these things and see which one works for you. Okay. Johnny Stevens, can you tell me the best technique for lat pull downs? Yeah, I absolutely can. So first and foremost, you want to pick a grip that feels the most comfortable for you. There is no right or wrong answer here, and I would never tell you that a close grip, mad grip, reverse grip, one arm, medium, overhand, one is superior to the other. I would be a complete charlatan. I'd be lying. You have to experiment. And by the way, all those answers could be equally great. Like there's many grips that work for me. Fine. Pick a grip. Start with completely straight arms and an upright chest, no matter what. Then you're going to pull whatever grip attachment you choose down as far as you can to a place of consistency. So if you want to pull it to your chest, that's great. Chin, that's great. Nose, bridge of your nose, that's great. All of it is valid. Just be consistent. And by the way, if you already figured this out, if you go to your nose or your eyebrows, that's a lengthened partial. So going all the way to your chest can be one variation, and going to your nose or eyebrow and just biasing the stretch can be another variation. You want to maintain an upright body position without any swaying. So when I pull, I am not here and rocking, despite what a lot of okay? I am going to keep my body stationary, like a pen and paper, stationary. And I'm going to extend up as high as I possibly can, open my shoulder blades up even, maximize the stretch. You can pause there or not. Your prerogative, no wrong answer. I like pausing, but you don't have to. And then pull all the way back. If you lean slightly back, just so this thing doesn't hit you in the fucking face, that's okay. So if I'm here and I go like this, that's fine. But I'm not swaying, right? I'm not at the temple. I'm not swaying. I'm here and I pull all the way down and then I come up slow. You can do a 2-second eccentric, a 3-second eccentric, a 4-second eccentric, something like that. As you may or may not know, I really like slower eccentrics. So for me, I'm taking 3 or 4 seconds to raise this all the way back, and then I'm actually pausing at the top. But you don't have to do that. There's other ways. You can do down 1, 2, down 1, 2. And if you get a great mind muscle connection there and your lats get pumped up, all valid. Please use straps when you do this. You can use regular straps, Versa grips, it doesn't matter. As far as rep ranges go, I would say the more moderate rep ranges are a good idea for pull downs. Save the lower rep range stuff for pull-ups. So sets of 8 to 12, 10 to 15, 15 to 20. And if you're fucking nasty, 15 to 25. I'm not that nasty. I never go above 20 on anything unless it's like calves. Maybe lateral raises here and there, but that's pretty much it. Start at a minimum amount of sets, farther away from failure. So maybe 75 to 80% of your best for the rep range in question. Start at like maybe 2 sets and then go from there. Let me know if that helped you. Okay. Blue Alpha 2001. Shout out Blue Alpha 2001. You're also one of the day ones. I can't get rid of my elbow tendonitis. I treat it each time, but it comes back. I tried everything. Well, obviously I would need to know what you tried. I can relate. I've been lifting now for damn near 16 years, and I seem to get elbow issues now more often than I ever used to in the past, and it's a pain in the ass. So what I like to do when I get elbow tendonitis, and again, it depends where, if it's on the inner elbow, if it's on the lateral side, and the kind of pain it is, I am going to troubleshoot for you in the following ways. Number one, and again, this is in no order. Number one, tendonitis can sometimes be rep range or load mediated. So it might get pissed in the 5 to 10 or the 8 to 12 rep range. It might be okay in the 15 to 20 or the 15 to 25 rep range, something like that. That's number one. Number two, sometimes a slower eccentric, sometimes a slower eccentric can help. So if you typically do a 2-second cadence on the way down on something and then 1 second up, double it. Go 4 seconds down and see how that helps. Number three, sometimes pausing in the end range can help. So instead of just rocking out of the bottom, down, hold, and then press up. Sometimes not locking out or going most of the way up can help. If you usually press or extend to straight arms, experiment with 90%, experiment with 80%, experiment with 70%. All are still valid. Now it's also supported by the stretch research. Could be good. Next, grip mediated. Like in my case, I can't seem to do overhand vertical pulling, overhand horizontal pulling, but I can do neutral till the cows come home. I can do a supinated variation till the cows come home. Sometimes it's grip. What else can I tell you here? Sometimes the movement pattern itself that you're doing that's causing the issue just needs to be put on the back burner. For me, I love incline dumbbell curls. They might be my favorite curl variation, but I found incline dumbbell curls really piss my brachioradialis off. They really piss this area off here. So I had to put those on the back burner. I also found that I may have a little hamstring tendonitis on my left hamstring. Hinging really pisses it off. I've had to put hinging stuff on the back burner. At the end of the day, this is physique training, people. There are so many things you can do, so many different angles and things, like we are not constrained to any singular movement pattern. You know what they say in blood sport, never commit myself to one style, to keep an open mind. And that couldn't be more appropriate than with physique training. So Blue, I hope that helped you. Steiner Fitness, let me know when you come to New York and destroy our bodies we shall. I will be in New York next month. So anyone that's in New York that wants to link up content, you want me to put you through a training session, that could be fun. Or if you just want to meet me, I'm going to be there. So hit me up. Middle of September. TYPRLX, just did it that way, not saying it. PPL versus body part splits for hypertrophy strength goals. Both can be appropriate depending on the way that you arrange. A push-pull legs versus a singular body part split, a bro split, a typical old school bodybuilding split, all can work. It really is dependent upon how many sets you do per body part, the quality of it, the technique that you're doing, and how you are able to recover. That being said, it's probably a good idea to train most muscle groups more than once a week. So I think 2 times a week is a very fair start for most people, and then go from there. Can you grow a significant amount of muscle from once a week training? Indubitably. Most lifters have been doing that for time immemorial. But I would say maybe do a little bit more than 1 time a week, but both can work for strength and for hypertrophy. Andrew.Moises, helpful to start cycles programs with higher volume of sets, then decreasing with time. No, I don't like that. So what he's asking is, when you're freshest, start with the highest amount of sets because you're not carrying any fatigue. And then as fatigue sets in, you actually would reduce the amount of sets. I don't like that. I would actually prefer to do the inverse. If I'm carrying no fatigue, yes, I probably could grow maximally, but that also means that I could grow from barely anything. And my growth might even be similar, but my fatigue will be way lower. So for me, I would like to start with the least amount of shit that I need to do to accomplish what I want, because my fatigue will be low. My adherence, my willingness to continue going harder will be really high. And then I can build on that. Whereas if I start too close to the sun, I'm going to Icarus myself and potentially burn out, potentially risk injury. And I don't want that. So I would start, and I would recommend starting with the least amount that you need to generate pump, soreness, disruption, fatigue, something like that. And as your recovery allows, add sets, add weight, add reps, add intensity techniques, or some combination. Get Off Your Phone asks, how important is a program? Can I just train based off what joints feel healed 3 to 4 days a week? Good question. I think that having a program is not the end all be all. I think it just depends upon how serious you want to take this and how efficient you'd like to be with your time. No one's going to argue that the most efficient way to do something is to track as much stuff as you can, right? Be a little bit machine-like about whatever the endeavor is that you're looking to tackle and progress through that. Doesn't matter what it is, fitness, dancing, hitting on girls, whatever. If you're mechanical, you're tracking, and you have a routine and a program, you're likely going to get to where you want to go faster. Does it require more effort? Yeah. So I think it just depends on how serious you are and how fast you want to get to where you want to go. If you don't have a program and you just train by feel, you're still going to train decently hard. Of course you are. Are you going to train to failure every time? I don't know. Are you going to maximally make gains? I don't know. You're still going to train hard. You're still going to get sore. It's still going to be useful. For sure it is. Most people don't even have a program. And if they do, the program's not even good. So you don't need one. But I would say that if you'd like to get the most out of what you're doing, it would be a really good idea to have a decently thought out training plan. And that being said, and this is a great way to close, I do offer coaching, everybody. I did actually drop my rates. I won't lie to you. I was very high ticket before, and that was cool. It's nice to say that I charge whatever I charged. I've since dropped my rates because I want to appeal to a larger demographic of people. Transparently, like, I'm not the cheapest. I'm not $200 a month or something, but I'm not $1,000, or something like that. But that being said, if any of you want help with your training, either on a consultant, like a one-off call, video chat where we talk and I write you a plan, we can do that. If you'd like me to do your monthly diet and training coaching, absolutely can do that as well. So that being said, that is the end of my questions for today. We ran 47 minutes. It was wonderful. I hope you got value out of this. I plan to do this at least once a week on here, possibly 2, possibly more. I don't know. Obviously, this is the first one. We'll see how it goes. But this was a pleasure. I can't wait to see you guys again. Have a wonderful, wonderful Friday, a fantastic weekend, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you for all the support. As always, much love.